Hi there. You're in the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Let's talk about this new record from Paramore entitled This Is Why. They released that on February 10th. This is studio album number 6 for the band and their follow-up to 2017's After Laughter. And this is a band that I've never really been a big fan of. I'll just lead this thing off by saying that. I don't think they're a bad band. I just am not a fan of pop punk. And when these guys first exploded onto the scene, there was an oversaturation with bands like Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy, all these different bands that, frankly, in my opinion, I didn't feel like there was any staying power there. It felt like that's what was hot at the moment. That's what people wanted. And it seemed like one of those cliffs that, eventually the music industry would fall off. This is a really interesting record. This is a really interesting band to the point that they've gotten at. There's a critic, Joshua Martin, that says their music is like them. It's aged differently. And I think that is what is so exciting about this record and the future of this band. I'm going to say there's elements of their style, of that Paramore sound in this record, but so much more maturity as far as the songwriting, lyrically, musically. This is a band that actually sounds like an alternative rock and roll outfit on this record versus what I would argue a pop punk outfit on pretty much all their other records. The other thing too is struggling to find that identity and just no consistency in this band. It was one of the reasons that, I don't know that much about this outfit, but if you know anything about him at all, Jeremy Davis, their bass player, has left the band. Well, he's not their bass player now, but he's played bass for them and he's left the band 3 times. I just don't understand how you accept that when you're looking for consistency, when you're looking for, just general reliability from a business partner, because that's ostensibly, what Jeremy was to this outfit. Creative partner, business partner. And he just keeps leaving. So I always found that so interesting that they kept asking him back too. And the other one too is the Farrow brothers. And these guys, I'm just going to say, you two are some whiny babies. All right. Haley was the only one signed to Atlantic when this whole thing started. She basically was going to be served up like another pop princess by the label. And she's the one that made Paramore what it is. And didn't even need to ask you guys to come along, but did out of the goodness of her heart. And I'm not going to say that I know nothing about it. So I'm not going to say that she was perfect throughout this thing. But what I do know is that when you have a front person like her, and especially when you have a female, I feel like in a rock and roll outfit as your front person, I think of the Cranberries and Dolores. I think of Chrissy and the Pretenders. I think of Debbie and Blondie. The list goes on and on and on. These are very visible women. And I'd argue, name another member of any of those bands, unless you're like a diehard fan. And that's the thing about it, the marketability. The focus is that front person. And I'd argue it's the same for any pretty boy in a rock and roll band. Look at like Jared Leto in 30 Seconds to Mars, or, like Maroon 5 and Adam Levine. Name another member of those bands. And it's like no one really can. It's the marketability that's there. It's how people identify it. It needs to be that quick response. And Haley, with that orange hair, her presence on stage, there's a reason that she's the driving force of this band, always has been, always will be. And to the Farrow brothers, you guys might be good musicians, but you were never going to be anything without her. So I'm glad you're not on this record. Frankly, I feel like you guys were the pop punk princesses, and this band has grown exponentially without your presence there. I think as a 3-piece, and I think with what these guys are working with, again, adopting more of that alternative rock feel. I feel bands like Phoenix, some of their older stuff, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Arctic Monkeys, Block Party. There's some really cool alternative rock and roll music from right around the time that these guys formed as a band that's driving the sound. And so I'm loving this record for it. And I think that this is easily the best record that Paramore has ever put out. I haven't listened to all the other ones in their entirety. So in all fairness, if you want to criticize and tell me I'm wrong, I'll take that criticism. And I think that that's fair. But this record is more sophisticated and more mature from a standpoint of the compositions, the standpoint of the lyrics. Everything about this record has made me a fan of Paramore. I never thought I'd say that, but I am loving this album. It kicks off with the title track, This Is Why. I love the intro. Percussion is fantastic, and as well as the build on the guitar and the bass, the way that those things come in and develop the track. It's got this funky light rock and roll feel. This is a band that I can dig. This opening track, it just, I love the way that it brightens up. There is some of that pop flair, but it doesn't feel sugar-coated like all the rest of their catalog, or at least what is out there commercially, the singles and the stuff that's really well known. The News is your second track. I love the funky punk feel. There's a great balance there in the dynamic. The play of the bass and the guitar around the drums is freaking awesome, and that's what I'm talking about as far as the dynamics that exist between the musicianship. This isn't just 4 chords and a hook. Like, there's some really interesting stuff going on in these compositions as far as the exchanges, the guitar play. The way that those guitars are working around the drums in this song is a highlight for me. And I'm really digging the way that the chorus hits hard, especially with the theme of this song. And I think that you talk about that maturation and things just lining up, and this song is a great example. Running Out of Time is your third track. Another cool build in the intro. Things mellow out a bit on this track. I like the change in pace here. The feel of kind of like a classic pop song on this thing. A great dynamic. It's funky. It's breezy. It's just a really perfect chill jam in my opinion. Your fourth track, C'est Comme Ça, is, talk about Phoenix, French band there, picks up the energy from Running Out of Time. And I like the drums just ripping on the hi-hat and this tambourine. There's just this great element here. The verses are a little more relaxed, but another great dynamic in that song. Big Man, Little Dignity is your fifth track, probably my favorite song. The orchestral intro hits just perfect. Like, the timing for this song to come on the record, I think, is exquisite. I love the 80s rock drive with that balance, and the hook is outstanding on this thing. The riff work, there's like this light jazz influence at play. Really a sophisticated composition. This is the type of song that I just never expected this band to write, and I'm so pleased about it. You First, another dope intro riff. This is going to kick off the B-side. I really like the way that starts. Direct rock and roll feel, a little bit of post-punk. Verse lightens up a little bit. It's a great way to kick off that second half of the record. Your 7-track Figure 8 is electro jazz intro. And I love the build on this song. The timing signature with the percussion is so dope. And this is definitely another one of my favorites as far as the textures that build in. It's like poppy prog rock is kind of what they're going with on this thing. And again, not too sugar-coated. I love pop music. I just, I don't want it to rot my teeth is all. Liar is your 8th track. You get this gentle arpeggiated riff to usher in a really mellow, pretty track. This is a great song. Vocal melody is delicate. Probably the most vulnerable moment for Haley on this record, but a nice way to leave it in your penultimate track, Crave. Catchy, breezy, soft rock. It's going to step up a bit in the chorus. And this song, it is a tad bit sugary. I'd say this is probably the sweetest moment on the record as far as that pop influence. But there's other elements as far as the shoegaze at work on this track. A really nice dynamic that, even with that little bit of extra pop, it's not a detriment to this song. And it leads into your final track, Thick Skull, minimal electric guitar, pretty melody to open this thing up. And I like the vocal element as well. Great balance there. The other components build in lightly. And then I like the way that the drums hit. And then the rest of this track, it ushers in this soft rock feel. I like the drive and the piano. Now, a bit of balladry here, a bit of that classic pop feel again. And just 10 songs, 36 minutes after almost 6 years and a very uncertain future. This is a very pleasant surprise. I was super pumped about this record and really, really excited to vinyl please this thing for all of you. Check this thing out. I hope you enjoyed this album. I hope you find this review helpful as well. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help Keith, MB, and I blow this thing up in 2023. Tune into the live show on Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we'll review music news, album reviews, funny stuff, all the things for you. And stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We'll see you next time on the Beat Sessions.